Good morning, folks. Still fighting this cold, whatever it is I've got. But it's getting close to Christmas time. I got the next couple of days off, although I still got a guy in Okinawa we're waiting on a contract to come through on so we can get his combat access card reissued so he can continue to work. And nothing happened yesterday. We were supposed to have gotten it yesterday. I'll get my phone, see if that comes through. But anyway, since I have nothing to do today, another installment of the Red Book of Magic. I was able to do my personal reading of the rest of the R spells. So we're going to finish up R today. Okay, Regrow Limb, old spell. It regrows a severed or mangled limb, right? If the limb is physically lost, an amputation, the GM, should determine what percentage of the limb was lost. And to give you an example here, you can just roll it. It's a percentile. It just died. That percentile roll shows how much needs to be regrown. When the spell is cast, right, you got to regrow the limb, or reconstitute it, if you will, if it was just mangled. The recovery rate is 10% of the limb per game week if the spell is applied within 10 minutes. That's 2 full rounds of the damage occurring, comma, increasing 20% per season thereafter. I think what they mean is otherwise. So if you don't make it in the first 10 minutes, then it's going to be 20% per season thereafter. Okay, Release Undead, new spell. It can only be cast on a sword and allows the sword to cut through the enchantments, creating an undead entity and release its soul, if any. Okay, yeah, because not all undead have souls, right? Like zombies and skeletons. From this, well, it says natural, but it's actually, it is unnatural binding, holding this soul to this body. And as I was digging through stuff, ghouls are considered half dead. Vampires are undead. I didn't see if Dancing in the Dark actually said undead. They might fit this manifestation. Wraiths and ghosts are not undead, they're spirits. So, yeah, it doesn't apply to them. So I'm trying to figure what all does this Release Undead really apply to. Okay, so the next go into the soul is released if the undead entity's total hit points are reduced to 0. And I kind of go, well, I would caveat this with, if in fact the undead does have a soul, it is released. Okay, 0 total hit points, or if the head, chest, or abdomen goes to equal to or more than double hit location points, right? Which is the same as the incapacitation stuff from the Runequest book. Okay. Additionally, so more rules here. If you get a critical hit, remember using a sword that has the spell cast on it. If you get a critical hit with that sword, that will automatically release the undead entity soul. If you get a special success, you got to slash with that sword. Whatever hit location you hit is destroyed. And then they treat this as triple damage. Okay, what kind of crossing boundaries of things happening here, though, versus releasing a soul and massive amounts of damage? But it says treat it. It doesn't say inflict, right? So you still only get the special damage, although the wound is is not incapacitated, amputated or mangled. And then a released undead, and there's the soul of a released undead cannot be reanimated. Reinterred, reapplied. I don't know. But this would apply, I guess, to zombies and skeletons. Once they are dead, they can't be reanimated because the other ones aren't. So an animated undead destroyed with this spell cannot be reanimated. Yeah, okay. Next spell, remove body part is an old one. You pull off a specific limb or organ without damage or pain. And you can move it around. Fingers can crawl. I guess feet could hop. I don't know. The guy with the picture with the eyeballs just holding it around. Can eyeballs roll? I mean, they got muscles, but I don't know if they can manipulate themselves enough to make a roll. Squeezing in the iris thing, Okay, so while the limb or organ, the body part, once the body part is separated, it receives all normal sensory input. Fingers can feel, eyes can see, ears can hear, noses can smell. It takes more than a tongue or mouth to speak because you got vocal cords in your throat. Okay, the caster, even if you can't see the body part, they can still control it, feel what it feels, etc. Though they can't necessarily determine distance and direction, how far away they are, or anything like that. They just sense where that thing is. Okay, if the separated limb is damaged, all normal rules ensue. I think it's another continental word. As if it were not detached. So if you've got an arm out there and somebody steps on it for 3 points of damage, impact takes 3 points of damage. And it can become incapacitated. You can do double damage to it, right? And you do take those damage points to your general hit points, but we were told those total hit points before, and in the Runequest book, they're called total hit points. So you still take total hit points of damage as well. You can even be poisoned. If they poison the arm, you get poisoned as well. Okay. Okay, once a body part is removed, it's still there, so you can't regrow it. I'm using the regrow limb spell. Unless that body part out there is physically destroyed. Okay. Once you get back within range, now if you send your eyeball off roll and get out of range, you can't really do much with it. But once you get back into range, you can then reattach the body part. Oh no, it's got to be some duration. Okay, so if you go beyond your 15 minutes, you have to recast the spell. Pick up the eyeball, recast the spell, put it back in. You can reattach it, but it has to be during a spell's duration. So if it's not during that first spell, you're going to have to recast it again. Okay. The spell ends, the body part remains separated. Yep, there we go. That's what I was talking about. You don't die, even if it was your head that was removed. Okay. Reproduce. Old spell, single living thing, able to recreate itself through normal natural processes. The next attempt will succeed. And to the greatest extent possible. So it's cast on a plant. It will flourish or produce maximum capacity, right? Full corns, blessed, full-grown plant, heavy laden with ears. All the kernels of each ear are large and fertile and capable of growing new plants, kind of thing, right? If it's a human birth, or you could say humanoid, really, because you're talking about trolls and Algeriami and that kind of thing as well, right? You get a healthy baby, possibly even twins or triplets. If you want, you can roll D3. However, if it's not possible for the single living thing to actually give birth, the spell does not render it possible. There was another spell that did that. Okay, require truth, new spell. Duration is special, and we're going to come to that. Okay, so the caster overcomes the target's power. The target must answer the caster's questions truthfully. Each point stacked in the spell makes them answer a single question. So if you cast 1 point, 1 question, 2 points, 2 questions, 3 points, 3 questions, 10 points, 10 questions. That's the special duration. Until they answer all 10 questions, the spell's active. Okay. Now, the person being questioned must answer aloud, and must be what they believe to be true. But only the letter of the question needs to be answered, not the spirit of the question. So you say, do you know where the secret hideout is? Yes. That's all you get. Then you have to ask, okay, where is the secret hideout? And then they have to tell you, okay. Okay, good to go. Next spell, resist pain. Resist pain. Resist pain. New spell. The target of the spell becomes immune to pain, right? They do not suffer unconsciousness or shock. Limbs can still be incapacitated, right, by taking double damage. The target may continue to act even if the head or chest is reduced below 0 hit points. Mechanically, that kind of conflicts with a limb being incapacitated taking double damage. You can't use it. If your head or chest go below 0, you can't use them either. But this allows you to continue to. So, and this is something that I've been trying to deal with Undead, because Undead don't feel pain, right? So you're doing damage to the zombie. You know, at what point does it really? Can they really physically no longer use their limb, right? Under this spell's description, let's fall the normal damage. You take double to 0. Then it's increase. When you go to below 0, you can no longer use the limb here. You have to go double damage to no longer use the limb. There we go. I'm going to apply that. There we go. That works. That works. Okay. Okay. And again, you can still continue to act even though your head or chest is below 0. Perfect for Undead. Makes those zombies a lot harder. Okay. The target will still die if their total hit points, again, total hit points, that's right. Verbiage, words mean things, are reduced to 0, or they take triple damage to the head, chest, or abdomen, which again, in effect, instant death, right? The target also endures hardships such as tortures, etc., and other things that are unbearable unflinchingly, because they can accept the pain and the injury. Okay, good to go. But this double damage to use the loose, you lose the use, and still active even below 0 in the head and chest. I like that application of the effects of this spell that I will apply to Undead. Okay. Excuse me. Restore Magic. New spell. This spell affects only the caster or a member of their cult. For each point stacked, the target replenishes 1d6 rune points, even if they're not at a temple. That's a handy way to get rune points back. Now, you can never regain rune points more than you had, right? So if you're only missing 3, but you roll a 4, that 4th one just, it's excess. You get your 3 back. Okay, now, as with all one-use spells, only one instance of this spell may be known at any given time. Where did that come from? If we go back to page 9, where they list one-use rune spells, it doesn't say anything like that. And I've had some people with one-use rune spells that, hey, if I sacrifice more power for a one-use rune spell, I've got it. If I sacrifice another rune point, sacrifice another point of power for another one-use rune spell, I've just got 2 applications of it. What's the big deal? I don't know. I don't like that. My Glorantha, that ain't happening. Now, they are one-use spells, so if you cast it, you lose that rune point. It's gone, right? So then the Restore Magic won't give it back. Okay, Restore Vision, new spell. This spell restores normal sight to the target, whether it's permanent or temporary loss of vision, right? You could lose an eye, although I don't know of any application of any critical hit table or special effect charts that does that. But there are spells that blind people. Okay, so temporary, you can eliminate that. Okay. If the eyes themselves are damaged or destroyed, a heal wound spell, page 56, must be cast on each eye as well. In other words, another exemption of casting more than one rune spell at a time. You cast Restore Vision and Heal Wound. In other words, I don't like using stack when you're casting simultaneously, but that's what we're talking about, stacking Restore Vision with Heal Wound. I like that. cast simultaneously. You must cast Restore Vision and Heal Wounds simultaneously in order to restore visibility to eyes if they are damaged or destroyed. Okay. Restore Health. New spell. This spell restores characteristic points that have been lost due to disease, sorcery, tapping spells, or other causes. Now, sorcery. The only sorcery that I'm aware of that decreases characteristic points is the tap body spell. And then we're also told tapping spells, plural. So there are obviously other characteristics you can tap. We just don't know about it from the Runequest book. If you're familiar with Avalon Hill's RQ3, yeah, they got tap for every single different characteristic, and it gives you different magic points for what kind of characters you're tapping. Okay, so that caught my attention. Okay, or other causes. What other causes? Well, there's aging. We lose points for aging. And while in the death and resurrection section of the RuneQuest book, it doesn't say anything about losing characteristic points there, under the Seal Soul spell and the resurrection spell, they do talk about it. So you can lose points when you die and may get resurrected. Okay, good to go. And it talks about this a little later too. Okay. Oh, if you're losing points through diseases, right? Diseases. Did I say that? Yeah, disease, first one. You can restore the points, but that's not going to cure the disease. You need to cure the disease separately. Okay. For each rune point to restore health, in other words, there's stacking. When each rune point stacked with restore health, you restore 1 point to a specific characteristic. Does that mean that there is, in fact, a restore health strength spell that's different than the restore health constitution spell? They don't have it listed up here under the description, characteristic. Or is it just fluid enough that, whatever they're missing is what you get to heal, and you get to choose which one? You have to cast for different stats. So you cast it once to get his strength back, cast it again to get his dex back. Maybe, I don't know. I think so. I think it's fluid enough that you don't have to specify the characteristic with the restore health spell itself. Okay. And again, you can only raise the stats up to what they were normally, right? Not max, but where they were. Okay. Restore Mind. New spell. Spell calms and restores the target's sanity. Alleviates despondent or despairing. I don't remember reading despondency in the book, but despair is an effect of failing a passion inspiration roll, right? Okay. And it doesn't matter what the source or conditions, this will restore. Okay. It cancels effects of mind spells like Befuddle or Madness or Mind Blast. Now, Madness and I believe Mind Blast both talk about insanity in their write-up, so, restores their sanity. Okay. Has no effect on Illumination. Illumination is not an insanity, I don't think. I think it's above an insanity, if you will. Illumination is not insanity. Does not affect Illumination. Good to go. Okay, Resurrect, just like the old spell. It's a ritual. You get a plus 35. Okay, this ritual restores an adventure to life. Excuse me. But first, the body must be healed to at least 3 hit points. Okay. If you died from disease, the disease has to be eliminated first. Okay, so this spirit summons, it's a ritual, but it's not summoning. It should have a summon in here too. It's a summon spell. It summons the spirit of the deceased person to its former body. The caster or the allied spirit. What about their fetch if it's a shaman? Because Dr. Fall gets the restoration as one use spell, so they can do it too. I would assume so. Okay, right? So any of these 3 beings must engage in spirit combat with the deceased spirit. They don't say spirit, but that's what they mean, right? Okay. If the caster or his allied spirit or his fetch or her succeeds in causing the deceased spirit to lose magic points, the spirit is forced back into the body and returns to full life. So you just have to win once in spirit combat. I think you need to drive that sucker to 0 and force it back into the body. Just my opinion. That's how I'm going to use it in my Glorantha. which is kind of interesting because one of my players and I have been discussing this whole opposed role spirit combat tie thing, right? Because if you get a tie, situation unresolved, nothing happens unless you both get critical successes and then you do damage to each other. And we started thinking, well, if it's a tie, maybe you do damage to each other, period. And if it's a special, then you do special damage. If it's a critical, then you do critical damage to each other, which would speed up spirit combat immensely, right? It also gives a significant benefit to creatures who have or inflict a great amount of spirit combat damage. So if you've got a higher charisma and power than whatever it is you're fighting, odds are you're going to win, because when you tie, you're going to be doing more damage. I'm still putting it in my head. I like the idea, and it will certainly speed up spirit combat. Okay. My timer. Okay. Next little paragraph here on what happens when you die, right? So each day after the first. Okay, so the first day doesn't give anything. But on day 2, the adventurer loses strength, constitution, and dexterity by 1 to 3 points each. The characteristic reaches 0 or less, the adventurer is irrevocably lost. Which means that the adventurer is not resurrectable unless the characteristic is first restored. Well, how is somebody supposed to know what a dead body's characteristics are? How do you know his strength is 0? How do you know his dexterity is 0? I don't know. Maybe there's a spell here that should know. I bet there is a spell that you know what a target's characteristics are. Maybe I'll dig into that. But that's the idea. Okay, find out, his dexterity is 0. We can't resurrect him. We need to increase it. So we use the Restore Health spell to increase that characteristic up, at least above 0, right? Ideally, back to normal. The real question is, as you lose those points, those are your current points. So the Restore Health should be able to raise those back up to where they were when you die, right? But if you don't have access to a Restore Health spell, are you going to have to retrain, research those stats to get them back up? I think so. Okay, so also, if you're dead longer than 7 days, you cannot be resurrected, because your soul after 7 days is in fact with Father Mortal and Undead. I forgot. There's a word for that place, right? Okay. Ride River Horse. I know it's long, guys. I'm sorry. I had a bunch of comments. Okay. Ride River Horse. Same as the old spell, looks like. Okay. It can only be cast on a headwater. Summons a river horse spirit with the forebody of a horse and the hindquarters of a fish. You can ride it. In fact, it can carry up to 10 people. And it takes them from the headwater you're at now, to another headwater. Now, it says the river priest, whoever the caster is, right, must have a clear idea of that other headwater they want to travel to. If not, then it's a random one. It's kind of like that mountain thing with the sheep spirit. Okay. Again, the entire trip takes never more than a few minutes, and 10 passengers per room point stacked. One-way trip. Same as the other ones. Okay, that's all of R. Sorry it took so long, but we're done with R. Happy gaming.